guys, James here, and today I'm going to be having a quick look at the X80 rig from SimXPro. It's an aluminium extrusion profile rig in 40 by 80 profile, so essentially a slightly smaller version of my other rig. So you're probably wondering why I've got this one sat here when I've already got my all singing, all dancing, bells and whistles TrakRacer TR160 behind me to my right. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this thing, but that seems to be the problem. My little one, my 6-year-old, keeps coming in here and kicking me off it. So I've got absolutely no problem with that. I love watching her drive on it, but the problem is she's having to, just to reach the pedals, she's having to drive sat right on the edge of the seat with it pulled all the way forward, and even then to reach the pedals she's having to drive with her face pretty much pressed up against the steering wheel and then actually looking at the screens up through the steering wheel itself. So not great. So yeah, she's been enjoying that a bit, so I figured, you know, I might as well get her a rig. I've got a bit of spare space here. I've still got all my old Fanatec CSW stuff. I've got a high-spec laptop already, so it was literally just another rig, and I've got essentially a full setup for her to have a little go on. So aluminium profile obviously made sense because, you know, she's 6. She's this big right now, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe about here. But obviously I want to be able to have it nice and compact, and then as she grows I can essentially just move everything, essentially expand it and get it out to where it needs to be. So yeah, that's the reason for the new rig. Now you may ask again, why SimXPro? I've got my TR160, don't get me wrong, I love it. No real reason why I wouldn't have gone for a TrakRacer second rig, but you know, there were 2 reasons that I did eventually decide to go with SimXPro. The first one was, as you can see with this, there's a lot of add-ons and mods and bits and pieces. And unfortunately, TrakRacer, they're so busy, they don't actually sell individual pieces of aluminium profile. So SimXPro do. Michael was really nice, sent me out this big vertical up here, which I've got all my steering wheels mounted to. And along with that, he was also kind enough to send me a whole bunch of 3 to 6 inch offcuts of 4040 and 4080. For instance, this little piece here, a few other bits, the bit the cup holder is sat on, the bit my iPad stand is sat on the other side, a few bits here and there. So yeah, I had a few of their pieces on this rig, and I was honestly really impressed. The finish, the powder coating on their stuff was absolutely top-notch. Super tough. I haven't been able to scratch any of it yet. And it's, yeah, just really, really nice. Much harder, much tougher than the anodizing that you see on the other types. So I figured, you know, that was one good reason. The other reason I figured I would try SimXPro is they're a brand new company. As a small business owner myself, I know how tough it is when you're first starting out. And, you know, I figured I'd do what I always preach, essentially, which is help the small business, help the new guy. So SimXPro, been absolutely great. I ordered the rig last weekend and it turned up this week Wednesday while I was at work. So I think it was approximately 72 hours, maybe a little bit longer, from ordering it to it turning up at my door. Really, really impressive. I've actually got a seat coming from somewhere else. That's the only reason a seat's not here. Partly because I gave her choice of seat and she wanted a red one. So only people that do red right now are SimLab. So there's a SimLab Speed 3 on the way for her that she'll be will be able to fit at some point in the next week or 2 when that turns up. So anyway, without further ado, I might as well dive in a bit closer and let's have a look. As you can see, we prepared in advance, dumped all my nuts and bolts, all my spares from previous builds out here, tools, seat rails, cable ties, etc. And the 2 most important things when doing one of these rigs, as far as I'm concerned, as well as the tools, which is your spirit level and your tape measure, so you can make sure everything's nice and level and even. So got all these bits out, so let's check out these boxes and see what we've got to play with. So I've got to say, the first thing that strikes me about this is the compactness of it, let's say. When I ordered my TrakRacer setup, there were boxes upon boxes upon boxes upon boxes. I think the main rig itself was comprised of 3 or 4 boxes, then another 4 boxes for the monitor mounts, other boxes for each individual thing, so another box for the keyboard tray and everything else. SimXPro have, obviously, they pack everything individually at the factory, at the warehouse, so obviously each individual part has been put together as compactly as possible. And you've got two boxes here, which you might think that's fairly normal for a rig, but what we've actually got in here is we've got the X80 rig, we've got an integrated monitor mount for it, for the ultra wide monitor that's going on here. We've got T-profile slot covers, we've got a cup holder, we've got mouse tray, we've got the cable clips, a PC tray for the laptop to go on, speaker mounts, keyboard tray, a few other bits and pieces. So there's actually quite a lot in these two boxes. So let's crack it open and see what's what.
So as you can see here, every single piece of profile has come, shrink wrapped with its own casing of plastic. So no scratches, no dings, dents. Yeah, absolutely supreme effort on the packaging, and you can see there, I'll tidy that up in a second. But every single bolt was individually bagged. The 40/40 pieces show you which end has been tapped and which end hasn't. So yeah, very, very impressive.
So here we go, we've got everything out and out of its packaging now. Everything checked, and absolutely everything is here. So we've got our cup holder, mouse tray, keyboard mount, pedal tray, PC stand, wheel mount, all of our profile, our cable tie bits to do our cable management, a few stickers, and our speaker mounts, which, to be honest, probably are going to be going on this bad boy once my new speakers arrive. But first thing I'm really impressed with, let's see if we can get this a little bit better, is the packaging of all the bolts, fixtures and fittings. Having done a profile rig before, this was a pain trying to work out what goes where, and this is very, very specific. You can see it tells you on each one exactly what you're supposed to be using, what nuts, what bolts, and also which bits of profile. So for instance, if we look at, let's say number 7, we need all of our nuts and bolts that are in there, and then it also tells us we're going to need some 58cm length profile in 40/80 and a 34cm length of 40/40. So I'm going to make it nice and easy. We've got our tape measure, which is good. Next thing really impressing me is this finish. Absolutely unreal. You can see I've tried to scratch it already, that's just a greasy fingerprint. But this stuff just does not scratch, it's so tough. If I go at it with a fingernail like that, you can see nothing, absolutely nothing. Again, same thing, I've just wiped again to see, and just greasy fingerprints. But you can see if I run that across, not a mark. So if you've got children, if you're worried about these things getting battered, then I think this powder coating from SimXPro is a great option. Really nice. Don't get me wrong, I love the anodized finish on that. The matte finish just does look gorgeous, but it certainly gets scratched up a little bit more than this, and I can see this taking a beating and still looking really, really, really good. So we've got that. Nice little addition here, some spare mounting materials. So if we do lose anything happens to be missing, then we've got that there. And then the last bit that really impressed me was these instructions. Super simple, but very, very clear. You can see they've ticked off everything as it's been put in the box. They've made sure all the bits of profile are there. Everything's been ticked off, all the end caps, and it's very, very specific in its wording. I won't bother going through it all now, suffice to say, very, very specific. Step 5. Mount the 50cm 40/40 profiles on the required width of your seat. It's not rocket science, but certainly a lot simpler than some of the other instructions that I've had to deal with these. So, and if you're wondering if this was all just chucked in the box with no packaging or anything like that, think again. Everything was very nicely bubble wrapped, nicely sealed in shrink wrap. So you can see we've got this whole box of protective stuff that was around all of this profile, on each of the steel plates, and absolutely none of this has got a single scratch, ding, dent or anything like that. So looks like it's time for us to crack on and put some of this stuff together. So now that we've prepped our space and I've got my two long pieces set here waiting, moved all these other bits out the way over here so they're ready, but one thing you'll notice, apart from the big slice in the carpet, ignore that, but the lack of swarf, you know, like metal shavings or anything like that. They've really cleaned these profiles up before they've sent them. Absolutely everything is immaculate. If we look at this, go on, focus in. The end of that, the cut is so clean, so nicely finished, no burrs, no nothing. And again, the actual profile itself is immaculate. Every single piece completely flawless. Nice thick core, which is good. I've seen a few companies using thinner core profile. They claim it's better quality aluminium, but you know, I'm somewhat skeptical of that. But yeah, nice to see nice thick core on this and really nicely done. So I think this is going to be an absolute doddle to assemble, and quite frankly, probably a pleasure. So as you can see, we've got about, I would say, 50% of the build done so far. Got all the basics on there, got the pedals fitted, got things roughly where I think they need to be. I'm not going to be able to properly finalise it until we've got the seat in and work all that out, but I've kind of worked it out off the dimensions of my seat behind me. But there's a few things that I've noticed as I've put this together that have really impressed me compared to some of the other rigs I've seen, not just my TrakRacer, but a lot of the other ones. And I think the first one I'll show you is how easy it is to adjust this compared to some other stuff I've seen. I think a lot of that's down to this finish, but I think you'll see what I mean when I show you this. I was fitting this bit a little bit earlier and needed to move this, and when it came to doing it with the TrakRacer, it was a real pain. But as you can see with this one, it's actually really smooth. And the one thing that I did notice, no matter how much I've moved it up and down, and I've moved it a lot when faffing around fitting these bits and other bits, there's not a single mark on any of this profile. And like I said, I'll bring you in a bit closer now so you can see why and see some of the other bits that I was really impressed with when it came to putting this whole thing together. So this was the first thing that immediately struck me when I opened all these bits up. As you saw when I opened it up earlier, obviously all the bolts and what have you are in individual bags with these little cards numbered like so. But then when I opened them up, I realised actually, as you can see here, each of them has a specific photo showing the exact layout. So for here with the feet, really easy. So you've got your foot there, then you have to put your bolt on, then your washer, and then it screws in. And it says here exactly what you need. You've got your rubber damper, your 4 T-nuts, your M8 nut, and your M8 washers. Kind of difficult to see with the lighting, but there you go. Nice clear instruction on how to do it, what you need, and there. And even when you get to stuff which needs different size bolts in different locations, super simple. So what you've got here with the yellow locations, 4 M8 by 12s and M8 T-nuts, and then 4 M8 16s with M8 T-nuts and cover caps. And then it's got nice little dots here showing you which is which. So you can see your yellows are your M8 by 12s and your oranges are your M8 by 16s. Super simple. Literally, you know, a child could do it. So that's the first thing that really impressed me. These instructions, absolutely brilliant. Same with the integrated monitor, really nice. Next thing, as I was assembling, see if we can get you across here, get that a little bit brighter. There we go. Right. So as you saw a minute ago, when I was trying to adjust the uprights here, it was really nice and easy to slide up and down, and that is partly, I think, because I was talking earlier about the finish on this, and we've got here 2 pieces of TrakRacer 4080 and 2 pieces here of SimXPro 4080, and you can, I don't know if you can hear probably with my mic, if I can get it a bit closer, you can hear the TrakRacer stuff. You can hear there's quite a lot of friction there in terms of the noise it makes when you rub them against one another. So when you're trying to adjust profile, the other thing is, don't know if you can see it on there, it scratches really easy. So as soon as you start to adjust your normal profile with this anodizing on it scratches up really quick. Then you have SimXPro stuff, and I'll do the same thing again, hold it near the mic. Yeah, you can hear there's a lot less actual friction there. You know, they slide past one another really, really easily. And then when you have a look, there's marking, but it's nothing that I can't actually get off. It doesn't actually scratch the rig up properly. And as you can see down here on this one, still absolutely immaculate. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is if we actually compare two bits of profile side by side, and see if we can get a decent angle there. So this is the TrakRacer, and this is the SimXPro. So the first thing you notice, these cores on the SimXPro are much, much thicker. So I'm not speaking to the strength of it, but it's definitely thicker. And the thing that I do think actually matters, I'm not sure if I'll be able to get a decent enough view with this. Let's have a look. There we go, right. So you can see it immediately, actually, to be fair, even with all that light. Here, there's a few bits around here. There's burrs everywhere. And it's not a huge issue, no, it doesn't affect the assembly of it, but that kind of stuff all ends up on the floor, it ends up falling out the rig and bits and pieces, it can get on threads, it's a pain. You look at the SimXPro, immaculate. Every single piece has been finished, and bear in mind this isn't actually a piece of profile that came with a kit. This is one of those bits that I said that you can see it's an offcut. It's actually got the end powder coated because it was the end of a long strip. It was just an offcut that they sent me just so I could use it for, like I say, bits and pieces. This was actually a part that came with a TrakRacer kit that was paid for. So in theory this should come with a better fit and finish, everything else, than this one. See if I can turn it down so you can get a better idea. And again, you can even see with the quality of the cuts, you can see these burrs here, look, all along there. Really rough finish. Every single edge has burrs all over it. Whereas I defy you to find one anywhere on this. The finish, the cut, you can see the cut is even done, clearly by a much sort of cleaner tool. Anyway, so yeah, so that's my impressions of that. So really impressed by the actual profile itself, by their finish, instructions. And the last thing that I've noticed that's a big difference, anyone who's ever assembled a profile rig before will know exactly what one of these things is. Your standard corner bracket. And focus, there we go. Your standard corner bracket. Now, they don't really use these with the SimXPro stuff. What they use on everything is these, and you could say they look less substantial, but there's one big difference between all of these, which you'll see with my magnet. Nothing going on there. Okay. Nothing going on with you. But let's have a look here. Oh look, we have some magnetic steel, so that is made of hardened steel, and again here with hardened steel, and that sticks really easily even through this thick layer of powder coating that these have on it to protect them. So you have some really, really nice thick heavy steel brackets that I think look a lot nicer in fact once you're fitted than this. So if we have a look at how they look on the rig itself. Oh, going the wrong way there. You can see really nice clean finish. Really nice clean, and I'm loving how they're looking. So not only do they look really nice, but they're also, it would seem, a fair bit stronger than the ones that come with most of the other rigs. So again, I'm really liking this proper steel, and you can hear the difference. You can't, obviously, I can't really sort of give you an impression through a video, but this feels like it's, it's so light it's almost made of plastic. There is no mistaking that is made of steel. I'd quite happily take a hardened blade and attack that and think that that's probably just going to chip. And the biggest clue, the biggest thing that tells you this is sort of cheap crap metal by comparison to stainless steel, is the fact that these things obviously have these little lugs, and they're designed that you can snap them off if you need to not mount it within a profile. So as you can see, if I do that, that's some relatively soft, relatively easy to snap metal. So if these are under some crazy load, I can imagine they're not going to be anything like as strong as these. So I'm not saying that won't hold up, but these are just, you know, that little bit stronger, and I can see that these are going to last a very, very long time, and you know, I can't ever see them failing, honestly, is the big thing. So yeah, found all the obvious bits. These things, like I say, they're really starting to impress me the more I go into it and the more I get it finished. So I think now it's going to be time to try and get the last of these add-ons attached, get some hardware on here, and see how she looks once she's all together. So, there you have it. That is pretty much it done. We've got the PC shelf on the back. I've put the pedals and the wheelbase on, just obviously because I needed to roughly know where the wheel's going to be. But until the seat turns up, and you'll probably notice I put that on backwards. That's not me being stupid. It's just if you put it on forwards, if she needs to move the seat forward, that handle hits the pedal tray. So put it on backwards, and then it's much easier to do. I can just do it with my foot behind it, and yeah, it just makes life a bit easier. So as you can see, mounted the monitor super low. Everything's nice and compact, and yeah, right. I think that's enough for today. I think we'll revisit this tomorrow and get some wiring done, get a laptop on there, and see if we can get this thing turned on and fired up. I'll have to wait until we can get everything fully finalised until this seat turns up, but fingers crossed that turns up in the next day or two and we can get it all done at once.
And we're done. After a couple of days of waiting, SimLab came through with the seat a lot faster than expected. We've got the laptop on there, all the electronics is fitted, checked, wired in, done all the cable management. Do not get me started on this laptop. That's supposed to be my streaming PC and was crazy money, and I've just had it spec'd, built and delivered. So that won't be staying on there. I think I'm going to build her a little slightly lower power desktop because she doesn't need anything like the power that's on that. We've got the CSW V1 base, we've got the handbrake is all fitted. The reason there's no shifter on there, I'm actually going to give her my Club Sport shifter off my rig as soon as I can justify getting a Pro Sim H pattern in the next couple of weeks. But we shall see. So that's all done, dusted. As you can see, no sort of issues there. We've got the CSW V1 pedals. Ignore this wire right in front of me. That's got to plug into the speakers, which will be going back on here shortly once I've finished doing this little filming segment. You can see here the mouse tray. That's the difference in the finishes. The mouse tray arm is TrakRacer and the vertical is obviously SimXPro, so that gives you a good idea of the difference in the shininess. We've got the Logitech keyboard, obviously on its nice swinging arm, makes getting in and out nice and easy. And yeah, it's all basically here done and dusted. So I love the quality, I have to say. This SimLab seat, very impressed. Obviously it's a SimXPro video, but I can't go and not say that it's a very, very nice seat, it has to be said. I'm slightly jealous. So we've got the cup holder in, obviously, because don't want us spilling any rubbish on this seat. So that had to be, you know, fitted. And we've got the screen. Cables, you can kind of see a few hanging out the side of the CSW, but they were sort of unavoidable. Essentially what I did was cheat, and I wrapped all of the excess cable around the steering mount, as you can see here. it worked quite nicely. You actually can't see the cables from any other angle, from front, back or side, so that was a very nice sneaky little solution. Obviously I've used short mounts for the monitor mount, keep everything compact, and it's left me a few spare bits. We've got the cables and, the power leads, etc., power blocks all running down the side here. That's the only thing I'm not really happy about. I will do something about that at some point shortly, but for now it can stay, mainly because we're not sure what's going on with this laptop. So I think I shall be replacing it, but I think the best way to finish this off and go over final thoughts is I shall go and grab her and sit her down, and you guys can see what she's like after an hour on a Fanatec and SimXPro rig, whilst I go over my final thoughts on this rather impressive piece of kit. So now that we've had this for a few days, she's had a good old go on it, I have to say. I'm really impressed. She hasn't been able to put a scratch on it anywhere so far. You know, obvious positives and negatives. As with any aluminium rig, you've got, your positives are the infinite adjustability and modularity. You can build them exactly how you want them, to whatever size you need. As you can see, this is what would normally be a full-size adult rig that now perfectly fits my little 6, almost 7-year-old. So downsides being, again, as with any aluminium rig, you're talking about it not looking all that great. They're not that pretty in terms of all the angles and stuff, but from the adjustability point of view, I think that it's a worthwhile trade-off, to be fair. SimXPro specifics, the quality of the fit and finish, I said it before, the powder coating, unreal. Like I said, she hasn't put a scratch on it yet. All the extra little hardware, they give you the little nuts and bolts and stuff, the extras, just in case you lose any or need some extra fittings, steel brackets, just subtle little thoughts like that. Speed of delivery, their service, absolutely awesome. So I genuinely can't really find anything negative to say. Price was really, really good. It's not like it's super cheap compared to the others, but it's still ultra competitive compared to the likes of TrakRacer and SimLab, so you can't really fault them there. Only real possible minus you could say is that when you buy one, you have to add all the bits and pieces individually to your basket. So you get the frame, and then you have to add things like your seat rails, your side mounts, any shifter mounts that you might need. Still works out competitively priced, but like I said, you need to remember to add them. So can't say anything but good things about SimXPro, and she's absolutely loving it. But as you'll see in a second, she is very, very much like her father, and when things don't go her way, she's take a look.